when we're not sure about the safety of some of these spaces, and we want them to feel really safe and for you to be able to be really open and honest. We are not going to include in the recording any participation moments. So if you have questions, if you are speaking, those will be cut out of the recording ultimately when it is sent around. The only thing in the recording will be Kitty's presentation and the work that she has consented to share. So just be aware of that. I'm going to keep the recording going the whole time because I forget to turn it on and off. But after the fact, if you spoke, I will be taking it out. So don't feel that you're going to be blasted all over the internet. And what you say is safe here. And in the name of safety, we don't really understand AI right now. So one of our things that we've been doing is we're not allowing AI bots in. So sometimes your Zoom has automatic note takers that want to come into the room. They shall wait in the waiting room. They are not going to be in this space today. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about how AI could be involved in your work, some of the protections around it and how it could be useful, we are doing a training on April 23rd about AI. Sort of explore it and see what applications could be for it. So I'm going to just really quickly drop the registration to that in the chat. Feel free it's the Community of Practice series. And if you're not already registered for that, it's a great series that we do every month with the Food Systems Leadership Network. And then the last thing I want to say before I introduce Kitty is that this is a very participatory session. Kitty has a really great training. It's going to have a lot of discussion times, breakout rooms. There's a worksheet that was sent around to all of you. So be prepared to be participatory. Again, if you can turn on your camera, especially when we go to breakout rooms, that's really nice and really appreciated. So, I know it can be hard sometimes to talk in these groups, but try and get yourself into a headspace where you're willing to share and engage with each other, because that's really a big part of what this training is going to be. Okay, and lastly, the training is going to go until 4:15 Eastern time. So it's about a 75-minute training in total. So I'm really happy to have Kitty here. First came across her when her and some colleagues submitted a proposal to the Food Systems Conference that our organization is doing in June. I'll put a registration link to that at the end. They submitted a proposal, and I thought it would be a really exciting thing to give a taste to you all now. Maybe you'll come to the conference, maybe you'll see some of it again and some of her other colleagues, but I wanted to bring her here today to lead this training. Kitty has a master's in nutrition sciences, and then she's also the community nutrition and health advisor for the University of California. She leads an applied research and education program focused on nutrition literacy, tribal health, and indigenous food systems, and the interaction of spiritual and emotional domains of health with nutrition. So she is going to lead us through a really wonderful and engaging training today. So I'm going to pass it over to Kitty.
Well, thank you all. It's quite an honor to be able to present this information. I am by no means an expert in this, and I am always learning, but I am here to share as much as I can about how this has benefited the work that I do and how I see storytelling, the importance of storytelling in the work. Emma, just whenever you're able to share the screen, that'd be great. So I believe that everyone got a worksheet that is with this. Can I get a thumbs up or down as to whether the worksheet was sent to participants? Awesome. All right, great. So, so I'm calling this Restoration. It's a play on the word restoration, seeding change through collective storytelling. As Emma, and I apologize for the typo on the date here, it is the third month, the 24th of March, not February. However, so I apologize for that. But next slide. So I did want to open with a land acknowledgement. It is a bit tricky to do a land acknowledgement since we are all tuning in from different areas around the globe, possibly. Many of us probably reside on Turtle Island at this point, but I do want to take this time to honor the ancestral grounds that we all walk upon. We recognize the kinship to land of the indigenous peoples of these places and their commitment to ethical stewardship. We acknowledge the harms of systemic injustice against both land and peoples across Turtle Island and other occupied lands. We support the resilience, strength, history, and traditions of Indigenous people worldwide. And I invite you to learn more about the land that you are on. This is gonna be our icebreaker, our introduction. Um, so I want you to think about this and kind of get your brains working into this storytelling mode. In 2 to 3 sentences, introduce yourself and what brought you here. So here being, it could be to the space that you are either figuratively or literally, or what brings you to this webinar in particular. I have an example here for myself. You can share this in the chat, or if you don't feel like you would like to share that with other participants, then you can just write that down on the worksheet that you have, or just note it in your mind as we start to warm up our brains into this storytelling. So we'll give people a couple minutes to think, and then drop that in the chat if you can. Yeah, so we'll go for just like 2 or 3 minutes, and shouldn't take too much to think about. But my example here is just Kitty saw that the world wasn't as it should be and set out to change it. She knew the work would be thankless, the road would be steep, but the dream was too beautiful to abandon. I think these sorts of 2 to 3 sentence stories are really open to interpretation. So this doesn't give you a lot of specifics about my specific job title or where I reside or anything like that. And I think that's really important for us to make the stories that we tell approachable by people from a lot of different sectors or a lot of different spaces. Often when we introduce ourselves, we give our profession or our where, like the specific location, the colonial land, the colonial name of the land that we are on. And that doesn't necessarily give people a lot of really great information. Just by telling someone that the job that I have, that doesn't tell people about why I chose that job or what point I'm at in my life. So feel free to drop yours in the chat if you would like. Great. We've got one from Emily here. That's really beautiful. I want to feed people. I think that that's a lot of the work that people are doing in community food projects. There's a lot of hunger or just need in the world that we live. So restoriation, this comes from Gary Nabhan, who's an ethnobotanist. I encourage you to look up his books and his work. He has some excellent writings on the topic of ecology and really these land-based stories. He says, we cannot meaningfully proceed with healing, with restoration, without restoration. Next slide. All right, so just a quick overview of the learning objectives of this webinar. Understand the role of storytelling in food systems work. Learn how to craft narratives that integrate data and metrics. Explore the contextual value of story alongside quantitative data, and develop actionable stories to use in advocacy and community engagement. And as I mentioned, I'm not at all an expert. We're all on a learning journey here. So we're not at the end of this webinar. I don't expect everyone to be able to do this flawlessly and at an expert level, but we do want to start moving towards feeling more comfortable with these objectives and being able to utilize or engage in these objectives in the work that we do. So that's the goal for this webinar, is to just start thinking about it and working towards these goals. Next slide. So why stories? Why is it not good enough to just have a spreadsheet and put up a graph that explains the success of the program that we are doing? Maybe it's dollars and cents, maybe it's pure numbers, maybe it's pounds of food that's been produced. Why is that not enough? So numbers fall short. Numbers cannot adequately capture the interrelated and complex nature of systems, such as food systems. Predetermined indicators, such as the dollars, the pounds, things like that, these metrics that we typically see in a graph or on a spreadsheet, they miss out on nuance and emerging themes. Stories also diminish power structures that can separate the practitioner from the participant. Anyone can tell a story. and it allows us to lift up voices that may be lost in the big data cloud and it democratizes that process. Stories can help us to produce accessible and usable results. Sometimes too many graphs and lines can make people's eyes glaze over or cross before we are able to make an impact. And it may not be accessible to folks who don't have a degree in statistics or haven't taken a course on how to really use this sort of information. Stories can be understood by a lot of different levels of society. And personal narratives are really powerful tools of influence. They tap into our humanness and emotional capacity. They can change people's minds and convey information in a way that is more memorable and relatable than mere facts or statistics. Next slide. So what is data? And we're going to do a word cloud here. So Emma is going to drop a link for that. And so I just want you to think about what data means to you, what words or phrases come to your mind when you hear the word data. Some of the big words are numbers, facts, impact, evidence, graphs. But I also see qualitative on there. So someone has been doing some mixed methods research, quantitative, qualitative, black and white, interesting. And I see numbers, but I also see more than numbers, so it's interesting. So data comes from the Latin, what is given. So that is what data literally means in Latin. And then if you advance, I think we'll get some more information. So it includes measurable quantities such as statistics, numbers, graphs, trend lines, correlations, but it also includes some of those other things that people put on their oral histories, descriptive themes, field observations, photographs, and relationships. Oh, back one, sorry. So on that right side there, but also column, those are more of these qualitative or mixed methods areas where we might not get numbers, we might not be able to make graphs, but we can just look at what sort of other qualitative information there are, and this gives context to the statistics, which are important because if you're getting a grant, then you might need to give impact in cold numbers, but it's also very important to also look at some of those other things. And we will go to the next slide. All right, so now is time to get that worksheet out, and we are going to start looking at how we can move storytelling into this space, this data storytelling, and use this as a way to measure impact. We can go to the next slide. I just have a quote here. Creating a relatable narrative means digging deep, asking hard questions, and potentially airing some uncomfortable truths. And that's Tobin Trevarthen. So for this first part of the worksheet where I have some questions, feel free to look at your worksheet if you have that already. And these are just some questions to guide you. It doesn't have to be a polished narrative yet. This is more just getting your brain working, brainstorming, really tossing some information there. What might we need to consider when we're writing this story, when we are getting together all of the information that we may want to present to someone or put down in a report, things like that. So we have the who is the story about? As storytellers, how can we honor their experiences and uplift their voice? What other perspectives might we consider? We also have this, what was the need that we set out to meet? So what brought us to do the work that we're doing? What is the solution? And what was the impact? How can we relay that impact to whoever we're sending this, whoever this story is intended for? When and where? This provides context. So what is the history of this place that might have helped with the development of the specific project you're working on? How did time and place come together to create opportunities or obstacles? Sometimes people often say I was at the right place at the right time. So those really provide context that's very important. And then why are we doing what we do? What information backs this up, validates the stories, and helps to make the case for continuing the work? So we're going to give you some time to just work on this individually. Feel free to ask questions if you have any. Otherwise, you can just, we're going to kind of have a little bit of silent time for folks to work on this. And I see, how do we determine what this story should be about? This is just a story about maybe your community food project. So what it really, there's, I'm not going to give you a specific topic, or I can, I guess if you want, but I don't know about your project. So what's a story that you would like to tell? Maybe you have a participant who has something really poignant to share, or you just have a specific experience that happened in your community food project recently that you've been thinking about. So it's really up to you. Nope, it doesn't need to be a participant story. It's up to you. It can be, but it can also be just a story about what you've been working through. Yep, really just a little bit more information to start really telling that tale, telling the story. So all of that information that you had is going to be kind of framed around these next set of questions to really create a story. Next slide. This part we're going to do in breakout rooms. So you have all these questions on your worksheet, so you have that with you when we go off into breakout rooms. And here in the breakout rooms, you can either pick one person's story if one person in particular really is interested and go through this and kind of get a more concrete story, or you can kind of bounce ideas off of each other. We're going to have about 9 minutes for those breakout rooms. And we're going to look at using the information that you've already jotted down to use these questions to kind of create a story for a particular audience, a particular purpose, and a particular format. So this exercise I'm calling Flip the Script. I think we should have the slides up pretty soon here.
Can you see those slides, Kitty? They're up on my screen.
Oh, okay, yes, sorry. That was my the wrong view on my computer, so that was my fault. So I'm going to give you an option here, and we're just going to do this in the main group. So this is again an individual exercise to start, and we'll go for 6 minutes. So this is once again just sort of rapid fire. You're not going to get a polished narrative at this point, but so you have two options, or you can work a little bit on both. But either reframe the story for a new audience, as we heard mentioned in some of those share outs from the last group. It really depends on like who's telling the story and also who's hearing the story. And then or you can reimagine the situation from a new perspective. So use that narrative that you already crafted for a new audience. Maybe you're bringing back information after a vendor presentation, and now you're delivering it to your community partners instead. So what aspects of the story might change a little bit to there? And maybe you're reaching out to new participants. So maybe that's a completely new audience. Or you can reimagine that situation from the frame of reference of a different storyteller. And what does it look like from a different perspective? But we did get this really great question, which is super important because so how can we reframe stories for elected officials who appear to have little or no empathy? This might also apply to funders. So we did get some good replies there. I think my recommendation is learn what they do. So if there's little or no empathy, what is there no empathy for? Or what do you perceive as there being no empathy for? Because everyone cares about something. So I'm not sure what they care about, but the more you can learn about what matters to them. If it's money, then you might have to speak to them about how your project is having an economic impact. on their constituents or things like that, or how it's being the most effective use of the money that you have, and how you're being super efficient with the money that you have. If they care about, or maybe you're saving money because it's more climate friendly, things like that. And you might not want to use the words climate friendly if they don't, if that's not what speaks to the people that you're speaking to, but just saying you're being more energy efficient, things like that. So really, I work in cooperative extension, and one of the things about cooperative extension is that we're working with a really diverse group of people. I'm working with public health. I'm working with California legislatures. I'm also writing grants, or I was, now not writing federal grants anymore because they're all closed. But I was writing grants to the federal government, things like that. So really having to look at who I'm talking to, school systems. Maybe I'm talking to school administrators or parents, things like that. So what do they care about? Do they care about their own families? Do they care about how many votes they can get? So you can say, like, we heard from the people that vote in your area that this is what is most important. These are the things that are important to them. And so if you're interested in staying in your office, then you need to speak to those people, the people that we're serving that are voting for you. So those sorts of things, really learning what they care about, what's important to them. And then I'm also yeah, you actually don't need to share it in the chat. We'll just think about it for yourself, and you'll have as I'm going to share an evaluation. Um, I have to do this for the presentations that I give, so I'm going to share a link for a survey. If everyone could please take this survey and give me your feedback, and then you can put that word in the feedback of that survey, and that just really helps me to grow as a presenter and to learn and to know how effective this was for you guys, and improve for my next ones, including if you're coming to the ISED conference, because the ISED conference in June, because I'll be doing this there, and then I can improve this for other participants, improve this presentation for that in-person conference. And I
Great.
know Emma wants to do some closing.
Yes, thank you so much, Kitty. I really appreciate that. That was great. Thank you guys for participating and staying on to the end. We always lose people right at the hour, so I appreciate you all that have stuck through it. Thank you. Thumbs up. Great. Yeah, and Kitty mentioned we have this conference coming up in June. Some of you are CFP grantees, so you'll be there. But if you're not, I really recommend coming to this conference. I'm going to post the registration in the chat. It's June 22nd to the 24th, and it's in Portland, Oregon. We are going to have some scholarships available for the registration fee. It's going to be a really, I'm going to say it, a really kick-ass conference. I know I'm biased, but there's some really incredible people coming, including Kitty, and just a really diverse range of presentations. So if you are not a grantee, who are already going to be coming, because it's also the PD meeting, I really encourage you to look into that and think about taking some time to come and be with your peers. Again, thank you guys so much. And thank you to Kitty. And I will be sending out a recording of this, as well as the presentation, the worksheet. And Kitty has also graciously offered to share her contact information. So I'll send a follow-up email this week or early next week with all of that. So take care, everybody. Have a good rest of your week. Keep doing the work and take care of yourself.